Hello, Internet. I'm Chris Reynolds, Senior Developer Advocate here at Pantheon, and today on the stream we're going to be talking about package management for WordPress. In the past, I've talked about Composer on this channel, and we've talked about federated and independent repositories, the FAIR project, but today we're going to be looking at a new package management system developed by my guest today, Lovekesh Kumar. Lovekesh is a senior software engineer from rtCamp and the author of WPM, which is a package manager for WordPress sort of modeled after NPM. I'm going to bring you up on the screen. Lovekesh, welcome to the stream and tell us about yourself.
Hi, my name is Lovekesh. I work at rtCamp as a senior software engineer. I mostly work on WordPress. I have worked WordPress, like I'm working on it for last 5 years. I have worked on co-performance team. I am a committer on WP so I contribute a lot. But from like past few months, I am giving a lot of time to this new thing that I have created called WPM. It's a package manager for WordPress, and yeah, that's all about me.
So yeah, today we'll be talking about WPM. Really quickly before we get into the deep demo and talk about what WPM is and does that's unique, why don't you just show us how it works sort of at a base level?
You want me to like show or like just explain it a bit
Go
first?
ahead and show just like a normal WPM kind of install kind of
Mhm.
process. Yeah.
Okay, so like first thing is very simple. You can just go to the WPM website. It's on wpm.so, and you will just get a install link from here. I'm on Linux, so I'll get that. I'll just copy it. I will delete my old installation, and I will just paste this link, and I'll just wait for it to get installed. Yeah, it's installed now. I will just reload my shell and if I just do version. So yeah, now WPM is installed, and it's like pretty straightforward to use. You just do WPM install and your favorite package. What should be installed today? Maybe WP Redis by Pantheon itself. So yeah, WPM sorry, WP Redis is installed. This is like as much as it's like as much this you can get with WPM. You just need a single command and your plugin or theme is installed. We can actually install theme as well. WPM install. What's your favorite theme, Chris?
Uh, 2025.
Okay, let me. Oh, I have installed it before. I'll just press enter, and it's installed as well. And now you will
So,
be.
what happens if a plugin and a theme had the same name?
So actually, that's kind of a conflict. It won't work. You have to upgrade one of them. So if you will go to WP to WPM, the service that migrates plugin and themes from .org to WPM registry, inside the state, you will see a conflicts.json,
Mm.
and nearly 643 packages are like share common name. For example, ability is also a theme and also a plugin.
Mm-hmm.
So they are conflicts. So I have to like resolve them manually. So I have resolved AMP, Gutenberg, and Stream because these are like pretty popular plugins.
Mm-hmm.
So these names will be assigned to plugins. And if you want, let's say, a package to be resolved, you can just open a PR and update it.
So that looks pretty straightforward. I'm sure it's a lot more complicated in the back end. But
Yeah.
before we get into that, talk me through what sort of prompted you to build WPM in the first place.
So I have like mostly working with enterprise WordPress folks like last many years. And the problem that I have noticed is, let's say, so for a fairly complex project, it's not just public plugin and themes. So first thing is that you have to work with multiple sort of vendors to get their vendor plugins. For example, Yoast have their premium plugin, right? Gravity Forms is one of them that is very popular, but it's private. So now the problem arises when you have to install those private plugin using your existing workflow. At this date, it's like very complicated. And I say complicated because there is like no spec driven thing which binds all the vendors that, okay, you have to publish your private plugin and themes this way. Rather, everyone uses their own dashboards. You just have to log into them. You just have to download maybe zip. Some providers also give their composer API, but setting that composer API also like little tricky because edge, let's say your project have 5 premium plugin or themes from different vendors, and let's say even one of them doesn't provide the composer API, then you have to create your some sort of own way, maybe unpack that zip, create a GitHub repository, and add that particular entry into your composer.json to download that particular plugin or theme as like Git repo using the VCS configuration. Or even if, let's say, 4 vendors provide you composer API, then you have to manage the auth 4 times. And it's like little complicated when you work in a team where you have multiple developers. Now you have to share that particular auth at multiple places. So the workflow gets like very messy, and the main problem arises when you have to update them, right? So it's a little complicated process. While WordPress dashboard, or even let's say in Pantheon, you can see which plugins and themes are outdated. Prioritizing everything, manually doing everything is like time taking. Whereas with automated tools like, let's say, WPM, you can just achieve it with a single command. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, that's definitely a complication of Composer. I know that there's a whole mess of different possible options for
Yeah,
dealing with private packages. There's like private composer, private packagist as an option. I like you said,
yeah,
there's some vendors like Object Cache Pro has their own
yeah,
composer repository, but you do need to have your auth. I know that some people will like create their own sort of packages repository and source that,
yeah,
but then you're kind of keeping yourself on the hook for making sure that your source files are up to date. So you're the one that's actually
yeah,
somebody is manually getting that version right.
yeah,
So that is definitely the complication of Composer. Um, so the idea, like what you showed in the initial demo, was just like normal WordPress things, but what it sounds to me like the real value here is the ability to kind of create your own mirror your own packagist essentially, where it has these packages that are managed sort of externally so that everybody can just run the command and get all the packages, like the canonical versions of everything.
yeah, kind of. So there are two parts of it, right? One is that once you have uh, like very popular tools set away in a community to work with, it's get like very easy to get things centralized, right? So to think of npm, npm is like very centralized thing. You have to do any sort of JS project, you never download a repo or a zip from somewhere else. You just go to your terminal and you just do npm install, and it's installed on your machine. The reasoning behind that is because that ecosystem is like standardized. They have a, like a spec driven thing that, okay, we create a package.json and you will get the packages that are defined in your package.json. And on top of that, enterprises, big enterprises have a like very flexible way to spin up their own registry, and they can just put all the packages that they need in that particular registry so that their or what their team can have access to it, and that is like very secure. So that sort of thing with the setup tools in WordPress, it's like little hard to achieve at this moment because everyone have their like fragmented ecosystem is there. Everyone have their like own workflows to achieve something, and in the end, that particular something is doing only one thing, that installing plugin and themes for a WordPress site.
In WordPress, we do have a command line. One of your things that you're saying made me think about how like yeah, nobody in JavaScript world downloads a repository or a zip file. In WordPress, the equivalent for packages, if we're defining packages as like plugins or themes or things that you would get that add on to WordPress, right? Um, you have WP CLI tools where you can install plugins and themes that way, including like sourcing to a specific URL endpoint to the zip file if it was like offsite. So what benefits of uh, WPM do you get versus just the native WP CLI tools?
Okay, so when you talk about WPCLI, right, I rather think of it as a CLI that is like a command line interface to manage a WordPress website rather than an installer. Why it does that job and it do like various things. For example, it can download plugin and themes for you from the .org repo. There are like many things that it don't do. For example, let's say what about the security point of view? WPCLI can what it generally does is that it will just fetch a zip from .org distribution and it will just unpack it to your machine. But there should be like some sort of contract that okay, whatever WPCLI is installing is secure, is the same thing that was published by someone. There is like no way to identify that. Another thing is that and WPCLI do have MD5 checksum verification for I think plugins, but not for themes. But
Mm,
then what about theme security? Let's say your machine is compromised in some way, some sort of MITM attack, or you may be not aware of that. Then how you will be able to know that okay, some sort of like my files are not changed while they were being transported over HTTP. And other thing is that when we think of package management, right? A single package can bound to many things, generally called dependencies. So, so you must have heard of WooCommerce. You can create like add-ons for WooCommerce. And let's say you are installing a add-on. Now you have to do two steps. First, you have to install the add-on, and now you have to install the WooCommerce. But with package manager stylish thing, you don't have to do that. You just have to install the add-on, and WooCommerce will be installed automatically. Let me quickly just show you an example. So if I'll do this DynoPack for Elementor, so DynoPack for Elementor is an add-on for Elementor, right? And if I will do this, it will automatically resolve the Elementor for you. So
mm.
now you have that you have reduced that one step, right? And if you will just do ls, now it will show you that what plugin and themes exist in your WordPress directory and why Elementor exists in the first place in your project.
Yeah,
So those are sort of data points. Those like quick wins aren't there in like traditional, like what I would say it as a scripting sort of thing.
yeah, that's definitely something that the Drupal ecosystem has for a long time rallied around Composer for that very reason because like the whole module system is kind of built around the idea of like there is this one sort of core module and then you can build add-ons onto that so your dependency so if I do like Composer require search API Pantheon, well it's also going to include the search API plug module because I'm doing something with search, right?
Yeah.
WordPress, we do have now in the last few versions the concept of required
Requires.
plugins, yeah,
Mhm.
which is nice, but that's still not the same sort of like package management dependency
Yeah.
system that other systems have.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so what we're looking at right now is pretty low level. We're just sort of installing a plugin locally, which is
Mhm.
probably not how a lot of folks are going to be using this. I mean, it's how some people might use it, which is
Yeah.
cool. But if I was actually using this to manage dependencies and building a site as an artifact, the way Pantheon handles environments, what does that look like, and how is this sort of better than alternatives that are available like Composer?
So when you talk about Pantheon, right? Pantheon is like WordPress as code. So if you will even check your stats internally, you will find that very less number of people manages their plugin and themes using dashboard because from my understanding like enterprise, at least the place where I used to work, doesn't like manage their plugin and themes from dashboard. Rather they use some sort of automation to manage them. Like we used Composer, but it was like very painful experience. That's why I created this WPM. So in that workflow, if you would like to fit that, so first thing that it will not be a like thing for the folks who manage their plugin and themes from WordPress dashboard itself, because it's like little developer side of things where you manage your WordPress as code, installing everything in the CI/CD pipelines and then deploying it, rather than using maybe SFTP or committing Git changes later from the dashboard. So talking about Composer and WPM, Composer can also do that. The WPM is doing, right. But Composer doesn't treat WordPress plugin and themes as first party citizens like WPM does. So what Composer basically does it that it just finds a zip file, right, in the manifest. So if I'll show you a Composer repo, uh, repo.wp packages here. So a Composer manifest looks like this. When Composer will install a plugin for you, what it will just do is that it will take this particular URL. Let me zoom it out. It will see, okay, its type is zip. It will take this URL and it will unzip it. That's like pretty straightforward. But how WPM sees it, it's little different. So if I'll just go to, let's say we open the Jetpack. WPM sees the package like this. So first it never expose the URLs in the manifest. And the reason behind that is security. So for example, here, let's say somebody was able to change this URL. Composer is not aware that, okay, URL was changed because it's hard coded here in the manifest. But in case of WPM, you will never find it here because CLI resolved it in a deterministic manner. It will take the name, it will take the version, and then it will resolve the URL from where it have to download the plugin or theme. And it then verifies this SHA-256 checksum that whatever it's unpacking on your device, and then it will take a look at signatures. So signatures are basically a cryptographic sort of thing that it will verify before installing anything to your device. And these signatures are generated when you push something to the WPM registry. So there are like multiple layer of security when you download from Composer versus when you download from WPM. So let's say even if someone got access of the website, this WPM registry or this manifest or even the tarballs, they can't infect your website because they don't have access to the private key that was used to send this metadata. And now coming to the workflow sort of things, it's like just replacing Composer with WPM in your CI/CD pipelines, just as plain as that. So wherever you are doing this Composer like install, you just replace it with your WPM. And the main difference is like what I am trying to do here is like creating a sort of spec and centralized thing. So both private and public packages can live at a single place. So you don't have to juggle between multiple vendors and set up multiple auths and then download the packages. So from like from my vision, what I see is that someday you will be able to just do like Gravity Forms here, because Gravity Forms will be onboarded on WPM. Maybe if it got that traction that it needs, then that would be some advantages.
So does that mean that your WPM registry is mirroring like all of WordPress.org plugin and theme repository?
Yeah, yeah. For the public plugin and themes, yes.
Yeah. So talk about sort of that process because I know that like I mean that's not a new concept. There have
Mhm.
been lots of people who have created mirrors of .org for various
Mm.
reasons, um, including the Fair project has a mirror, but it's like that's a lot. It's a lot of files. That's a lot of.
Yeah,
It's a lot of
yeah.
zip files. It's a lot of things. Um,
Mhm.
like and it also because it's so much like there's complications of scale, right? Like
Yeah.
because like if you're mirroring, that means you're going to always be lagging a little bit behind, and you're also going to be like
Mhm.
waiting for like the whole process of actually like transferring the files over into your mirror. So talk about how that works a little
Yeah.
bit.
So there are two things. One is, let's say, mirroring, where you get the continuous changes, right? And another one is sort of like replication. where you take some source, you do something in middle and push it somewhere. So WPM doesn't like in a sense it doesn't mirror, because mirror would be the like exact replica of what WP.org is. Rather, what WPM does it, that every 15 minutes it will parse the SVN log of both WordPress plugin and themes SVN logs, right? It will try to figure out that what particular plugin and themes were updated in the last 15 minutes.
Mm.
It will download those plugin and themes. It will initialize WPM in it. So if I want to show that how we can initialize an existing plugin, just give me a quick minute.
Mm-hmm.
I will do that. I will just do, or I will just check out. And let's say what happened? Is it just- so what I am doing currently on my screen is basically about we do in CI/CD pipeline to replicate. So yeah, so let's say this tag is replicated now. I will go inside it. And if I just do WPM init, existing name was site mailer, site mailer version 1.4.1. If I will just, so in CI/CD, it will run this particular command after cloning a particular plugins or themes tags. And this command, basically what it will do is that inside that particular plugin or theme, it will create a WPM.json. It will parse the data from your main plugin file and readme.txt. And then it will set up things like name, version, what's the type, description, what are the package requirements, that no tooling does that in WordPress. So let's say when requires help is that, let's say you are running on WordPress 7.0, but require says that it basically is the Unicode for this, greater than 6.6, but less than 6.9. So using Composer or WPCLI, if you will try to download it for WordPress 7.0, they will allow it to download, but WPM will block that because your site requirements are that you are in WordPress 7.0 and this plugin is not compatible yet. And it will set up other metadata like license, author, and all that stuff. And it will also create a readme.md out of this readme.txt that have all the information, but in the form of markdown. And now what it will just do is the WPM publish. So if I'll just do this, it will do a publish. It will pack this particular tag in a ZSTD compressed tarball, and I will come to that part later, that why I chose ZSTD. And it will push that to publish that to WPM registry. Now, why ZSTD is because ZSTD compression ratio is very good, and ZSTD unpacking and packing speed is also good compared to JIP or GZIP and other related compression algorithms. So when you will download the same package using Composer and download the same package using WPM, WPM will be faster in many ways. One reason is that WPM do many things at low level because it's written in Go. It can like parallelize many process efficiently by using the CPU efficiently. And another thing is that the bandwidth will be very low because what Composer is downloading is huge in size, but what WPM is downloading is like tiny in size. So that's the thing. See, size unpacked, it was 16.32 MB, but after packing, it's just 4 MB. So it's 400x, if I'm not wrong, if my math is correct. But
Um,
this thing happens, yeah.
no, I was just gonna say that one of
Mhm,
the things that my understanding of WPM is that I believe you wrote it in Go, which is not a language that most WordPress people are familiar with.
mhm,
Even Terminus is written in PHP, not because PHP is an efficient language for writing command line tools, but because it's a language that people know. Um,
mhm.
what led to your like why did you write it in Go, and why what benefits does that sort of architecture have over writing it in something like Python or PHP or something else that people might be a little
Mhm.
bit more familiar with?
So I have like multiple regions. I will start one by one. So first one is that Go is like sort of cloud native languages. So there are like lot of tooling that people from Google or like CNCF projects have created. So one of the project is Sigistore. It's for supply chain security. It's written in Go. My primary reason was to match that compatibility. So using Go, I can have access to basically many low-level libraries that handle security and even the like a shared memory buffer level security in a very efficient way. First reason is that. Second reason is distribution. So for example, let's say if I would have been write WPM in PHP, then it would have same problems as Composer. And let me like explain what I mean by that. Let's say you are installing Composer on your machine, right? If you don't have PHP, you can't run it. You
Hmm.
also have to install PHP.
Yep.
Now another thing is I know WordPress steps will always have PHP, but it's not guaranteed that you will always have the extensions that are required to run that particular tool.
Yep.
So I can give a like very clear cut example that is in case someone works on Pantheon a lot and they have tried to install Object Cache Pro, that is the caching plugin recommendation from Pantheon side. If you will just try to install it using Composer, it will give you an error that you don't have Redis extension enabled or maybe compiled or something like that.
Yes,
So that
anybody,
that sort of
anyone out there who might be watching this, who uses Composer with Object Cache Pro, including myself, is very familiar with the ignore platform rex tag that you have to
yeah.
pass whenever you do a Composer install locally. Yep.
So that was the exact another region for distribution. Let's say maybe let's say Pantheon yesterday. Let's say Pantheon comes to me and say, okay, we want to use WPM in our hooks. When someone publish, we will automatically run WPM. And if I will just give them PHP, then they have to set up like multiple things. For example, it could be possible that certain version of WPM is not compatible with what most people are using on their servers, or you just can't install a particular extension because your security team haven't clarified that, right? So in these things, low-level language helps because they just generate a like binary, and you can just distribute it anywhere. It's self-composed, it will work anywhere. You can just run it out of the box.
Yeah, that's really cool. Do you have I mean, obviously you showed just, that you would just swap out your Composer install with a WPM install. Do you have any sort of
Mhm.
workflows that example workflows where we can see that actually happening?
That's like hard ask because I don't have that. I haven't prepared for that.
That's no problem.
Yeah, but what I can say is that you should try setting up Composer in a WordPress project, and then you should try setting up WPM in your WordPress project, and you will find that developer experience, right? That you are just able to do all the things with single command. While to set up Composer, you have to configure repositories, and then you have to like install packages. And at some point, what also happen is, let's say someone is distributing their package using Composer, and they have some sort of other PHP dependencies or dev dependencies which are unrelated to your WordPress project. Then you can also run into conflicts, right? That maybe that particular plugin requires this version of this package, and you requires this package, and there could be conflicts which are hard to resolve. But in case of WPM, you won't face that because WPM is like specifically built for WordPress. You will always have WordPress plugin and themes. Whilst in Composer, you have like many things. You can have PHP packages, you can have WordPress plugin and themes. So it's the same thing doing two tasks.
So I know that you presented about WPM. I think you were at WordCamp Asia, right? Talking about WPM.
Yeah,
Uh,
I talk to many folks. Yeah.
so what sorts of conversations have you had since sort of showing this around, and feedback have you gotten from folks that you've been talking to about it?
So I was like very surprised that everyone liked the idea. And then the number two question was that why not Composer and why WPM?
Hmm.
And literally, I demoed it to like maybe a couple of folks. I demoed everything like maybe 20 or 25 times to everyone. And in the end, they were like convinced that, okay, it's a good thing and it should be adopted so we can have like centralized things because it will solve many problems, not for just developers, but also for plugin and theme authors, right? Because at the moment, if you are going to vendor a private plugin or theme, you also have to like take care of many things like your hosting infra for hosting those plugin and themes, using like subscription to many third-party tools for licensing or like selling your plugin and theme as digital goods. And they also have limitations. I won't take names, but many of these solutions will only expose your single version. So let's say there is a plugin foo and that is distributed, you can only access the latest version of that particular plugin, not all of them. But in WPM, you can just do all of them. So if I will just do Jetpack, you can see like which version is there, what are the requirements. You can access all the tarballs and these stuff. So you are just not locked in a sense.
Um, One thing that it makes me think about while we've been having this conversation is that
Mhm.
WordPress is just a ultimately it's a PHP project. It's a PHP application that has its own internal dependencies, but
Mhm.
the code itself is PHP, and Composer is a package management system for distributing other PHP libraries. So
Yeah.
there are cases where there are other PHP packages that are distributed over Packagist or private repositories or whatever that are
Mhm.
adjacent to WordPress. They're not necessarily part of the WordPress site. They're not a plugin dependency, but it's a dependency of the project. So
Mhm.
there are still cases where you would want to use Composer for things like PHP Unit or something. Um,
Yeah.
but uh, but I guess the difference here is that it kind of like creates a separation of concerns where like Composer manages your general PHP dependencies, and it
Yeah.
doesn't need to worry about the WordPress dependencies because there's this other thing.
Yeah. That's the thing. Also, many folks also argue that why WPM when WordPress is basically PHP, right? So it's not about PHP, it's rather about the tool uh, you are working with. If WordPress has been something that don't have any plugin on themes, then making something like WPM shouldn't have make sense, right? But WordPress have like a large ecosystem of dependencies, and those dependencies are basically plugin and themes. So when you talk about plugin and themes, those are your WordPress dependencies. And when you talk about PHP code, as in that is like PHP level dependencies, and not the plugin system that will extend your WordPress, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I think so. I guess the argument that people always have against Composer,
Hmm.
which would also be an argument against WPM to a degree, is
Mhm.
that one of the things that has made WordPress adoption, I think, historically grow at the scale that it has is how easy it is to install plugins and themes without having to be a developer,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Obviously, like my counter argument has always been like, well, but a user who is not a developer is not going to know how to solve a problem that is caused by a plugin that gets updated
Yeah.
and white screens your site, and then they're
Mhm.
just going to get stuck and be locked out of their site.
Yeah.
And so that's a reason why developers and things like developer tools like Composer or WPM are valuable.
Mhm.
But one of the things that
Yeah.
has led to the success of WordPress is the fact that I can go into the admin, click on Add Plugin,
Yeah.
type in Akismet, and then I get that plugin, right?
Yeah.
So is there a world in which uh, we can have both things? Like, have
Yeah.
you thought about like how those two worlds kind of collide?
So actually, I don't like care about that because these are like two different things. One users who like use WordPress as like maybe bloggers who just don't want to do technical things, rather they just want to do best with WordPress, what they do, like maybe writing posts, uploading videos, and all that stuff. But at the other hand, when it comes to like developer heavy WordPress website, because WordPress is like not limited to a single blogger kind of market. It's there for like big enterprises as well. For example, NASA uses that, right? Multiple big companies, CERN uses that. So their workflow is going to be a little bit different. They are not going to manage things from dashboard for many regions, because secure websites, for example, let's say Pantheon, they don't easily provide right access to their file systems where most of the files are written, right. So you just can't do what a normal person is doing with WordPress when you are in enterprise land. So both things are existing together, not from today, but from a very long time, and they will, I think, keep going to do so. So it's for developers. It's yeah, that's the statement.
As we move into this sort of agentic era, um, what sorts of things like I can imagine that a tool like WPM would be particularly valuable for like
Yeah.
AI assisted coding. Do you have other tools that you have worked on or building or have built that interface like an MCP so that it understands WPM commands? Like, what sorts of things are you thinking about for adapting this tool for using alongside sort of AI LLM based tools?
Yeah, so I have written skills for WPM. If you are using Cloud Code, Open Code, you can just install those skills. I just ask your agent that set up my WordPress website and I was these plugins, these themes, and your agent will just consult WPM that to install those particular plugin and themes. Another thing like on the roadmap is like actually it's the work going on is I am also creating a MCP server. MCP server is basically help agents to discover plugin and themes based on like many criterias. So those criterias are, let's say you asked your agent that can you find me a plugin which is easy to set up commerce website for me. Then agent will look up into the registry index to find such plugins which can provide commerce support, and it will have like multiple things like weight. So weight is generally a matrix to weigh down that which plugin is more better, like maintainable, published on a like interval, compatible with multiple WordPress and PHP versions and all that type of stuff, and it will recommend or even if you ask, it will install that. So those sort of tools is I am working on. And when you talk about agentic workflows, right? Agents are like uh, very efficient when you have underlying efficient tools that they can easily discover, easily work with, and native tools. So I think WPM is going to be like very good fit there.
How much of your sort of attention, like how much time have you been devoting to building and thinking about and writing tools for WPM as opposed to like everything else that you're doing? Because like again, like you're still an engineer at an agency that is fairly well known. I mean, I know you guys and have known you guys for a long
Mhm.
time, like, but this feels like one of those like all consuming projects that's going to like absorb all of the available time that you possibly have, just like constantly like your brain spinning with new ideas.
Yeah, so I mostly dedicate my weekends to this thing, like few hours on Saturday and Sunday. Prior to that I used to contribute to performance team sponsored by rtCamp. But I find this like little idea. I work on it on weekend, and it's like a actually big thing for a person, right? Like you have to build a website so users can interact with. You have to build a CLI tool so developers can interact with. You have to build a, like some sort of mirroring pipeline so you can copy stuff from one place and push it to somewhere else. Then there is a like massive infra behind it. For example, that uh, you have to publish a lot of packages to WPM registry. You have to spin up servers. You have to connect object storages. You have to connect key management modules so that your private key doesn't get leaked to the public in some serious attempts. You have to like think about databases, key value stores, or like Redis cache, stuff like that. So there are like many things, but see that there is an advantage. That one thing is, at least I now know that how every package manager works. I know they're under the hood sources. For example, I know what Composer does behind the scene. I know what npm does behind the scene, and I know how can I spin up servers, how can I do like a lot of stuff. So that is also like good learning journey for me, apart from devoting time here.
Yeah, I mean, you also mentioned a lot of the infra and that incurs cost. Are you getting sponsorships? Like are you like is this out of pocket? Are you taking sponsorships? Like is WPM going to be free forever, or is it going to be a WPM Pro, or like some sort of limited thing where it actually like can pay for the very real like server costs and things like maintenance for an open source
Mhm.
package like this?
Yeah, so talking about is sponsorships, that AWS have provided credits to host object storage and KMS to use their services. Docker have provided a sponsorship for uh, like build runtime, where I create the WPM binaries in a very secure way so that are not tampered with on some infected hardware. And they also provide a sponsorship for like unlimited downloads of the WPM CLI using their Docker images. And Planet Scale is a company which also provided credits for database. I think I'm about to burn them in a month or two. Maybe I will ask again that they can give me some more. But in terms of money and all that stuff, I don't think we have reached there. And about the sustainability, I think at some point of time, if this thing got traction, people start using it, then I have to think in the direction of making it sustainable, maybe charging for hosting private plugin and themes, just like NPM do.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, Lovekesh, for coming on. This was
Yeah.
really cool. I loved getting into the weeds with this stuff. So it was really fun to see you show off this tool. I know that you and I have talked about this privately for a long
Yeah.
time, since you sort of had the idea many months ago. So it's
Yeah.
really cool to see like how it's grown and how people to use it. For anybody who's looking for information about you or about WPN, I threw the link on earlier, but where can people find you on the internet?
You can, if you are in WordPress ecosystem, you can look for the Lovekesh on WordPress Slack. You can find me on X by the same username, the Lovekesh, that is TheLovekesh. And you can also connect with me on GitHub issues on WPM CLI repo and discussions. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Lovekesh. Thank everyone who might be watching now or in the future. This was really fun and exciting to look at this new thing. And yeah, we'll see you all on the internet.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Yep. Thanks.